The first thing Tyler Reed noticed about the crossing guard was that she didn't move. His full weight slammed into her shoulder, and she stood like a rooted pylon in the morning light. His phone flew from his hand and skittered across the white crosswalk paint. The woman hadn't even braced her feet.
What's wrong with you? You stupid! Look what you did to my phone!
Behind the crosswalk, the school children froze. Lily's mouth dropped open as Miss Chen raised her phone, recording everything. Miss Chen's phone had been out for a selfie with her daughter. Now it was capturing the whole ugly scene in high definition.
You done making a fool of yourself? Take my hand.
Get off me, you crazy hag!
You just pushed me in front of a bus full of kids. You do not get to stand here and blame me. Move along now, before I call this in.
He stormed down the sidewalk, not looking back, as every parent on that corner pulled out their phone and started uploading.
Dorothy, are you all right? I saw the whole thing from my office window.
By lunch, the video had thousands of views and a nickname, the Crossing Guard Takedown. Dorothy walked home unbothered, but in her small apartment, a shelf held a secret. A framed photograph, turned sideways, showed a handshake with a man in a dark suit, the rest of the picture hidden.
10,000 views, and my face is all over it. This is a nightmare.
Dorothy, a few parents have asked about your background after that video. Is there anything you want to share?
I've been doing this job 3 years, no complaints. Whatever they saw was just an old woman with fast feet.
Tyler, we've seen the video. This firm does not tolerate aggressive behavior toward the public. You are suspended pending review.
She didn't even move. It was like hitting a wall. How is that possible?
That evening, Dorothy stood before the shelf, touched the frame, then gently turned it face down. She had never told anyone about the man in the suit. She wasn't about to start now.
That stance, rooted through the arch, weight on the back leg. I know that from 100 briefings.
2 phone calls later, after a decade of silence, Dorothy's old detail phone buzzed.
Marcus, it's been a long time. Don't get involved in this. Whatever you saw, it's just video. I am a crossing guard now. Let it stay that way.
Across town, a news editor slid a tablet across the table. Reporter Sofia Garcia leaned in. Viral crossing guard video. Find out who she really is.
Dorothy Hayes, 62. No criminal record, no military file, nothing past a basic ID. That can't be right.
By the evening broadcast, the local news had branded her the mystery crossing guard. The video looped on a split screen.
Tyler, is that you? Pushing that woman? The whole country is watching this, and I had to find out from the news.
She barely moved. Megan, it was like she was waiting for it. I barely touched her.
The next morning at school, Lily tugged her mother's sleeve and asked, "Is the video lady okay?" Everyone says she's famous now. The school board called an emergency session. Parents filled the folding chairs, phones still lit with the video.
I faced worse than an impatient man. This school is the safest place in this city, and I intend to keep it that way.
After the meeting, Principal Harper stopped her in the hallway.
Dorothy, that wasn't your first physical confrontation, was it? You have training.
Years ago, when such things mattered. Now I hold a sign and make sure the kids cross safe. That's enough.
That afternoon, after a dozen ignored calls, reporter Sofia Garcia found herself across from a retired agent in a coffee shop.
She guarded the house. I can't say more, but here, take a look at this.
This is a presidential lectern. She was on a protection detail. Who did she guard?
That story isn't mine to tell, but you are a reporter. Start digging.
At the firm, Tyler's suspension became permanent. The termination letter was short.
Effective immediately. We can't have a bully representing this firm.
By morning, Garcia's article was live. Crossing Guard secret training. Who is she? With a cropped photo that hid the presidential seal. At the crosswalk, a kindergartner tugged Dorothy's vest. "Are you a spy, Miss Dorothy?"
No, sweetheart. Just someone who learned a long time ago how to stand her ground. Now let's cross.
Dorothy, some parents are uneasy. They think you might attract trouble. Are you okay with this attention?
Trouble comes whether you are ready or not. I'd rather be the one standing in its way.
That night, Tyler sat alone in a dive bar, watching the news replay his worst moment on a loop.
My life is over for a shove she didn't even feel.
At home, Megan zipped the last suitcase.
I am taking the kids to my mother's until you get yourself together, Tyler.
In her quiet apartment, Dorothy lifted the frame and looked at the young woman in the dark suit.
It never really leaves you, but maybe that's the point.
By the next news cycle, the cropped photo was gone. The full image showed a young Dorothy behind a lectern with the presidential seal. In her kitchen, a small television showed the same breaking news as her phone buzzed. She picked up.
Marcus, it's out now. Let them say what they want. I am not hiding anymore.
When she opened her front door, a wall of microphones and cameras pressed forward.
I did my job then. I do my job now. Now, if you'll excuse me, the children need to cross safely.
Miles away, in a cheap motel room, Tyler watched the same footage loop. His name was pinned to every comment, each word a blow. That afternoon, Sofia Garcia's crew set up in Dorothy's living room. The cameras rolled for a nation that had questions.
I spent 20 years protecting people who make decisions that alter history. When I retired, I wanted to protect something simple, so I chose a crosswalk. The man who pushed me doesn't know who I am, but I know who I am. That's the only thing that matters.
Before sunrise, her quiet words had been shared 10 million times. The nation had found its guardian. Megan Reed watched the interview with her children huddled on the couch. The popcorn grew cold as her tears fell.
She could have been anything, and she chose to protect our kids. Your father pushed her.
Across town, Lily pointed at the screen and shouted. Miss Chen laughed, pulling her closer. In a motel room 20 miles away, Tyler watched the same footage, his face wet, his hands limp.
She didn't even say my name. She just stood there, unshakable.
After the broadcast, Dorothy's phone rang. The caller ID showed a Washington number she hadn't seen in years.
You are kind to call, but I wasn't looking for recognition. I am just a crossing guard now.
Megan, I need to fix this. I don't know how.
Start by apologizing, Tyler. Not to the cameras, to her.
That night, Tyler sat at a motel desk and wrote a letter. The first line was 2 words. I am sorry. Principal Harper handed her a sealed envelope. Dorothy read the letter alone in his office, the papers still damp from Tyler's motel grip. When she finished, she nodded once. That afternoon, Tyler Reed walked into the school, his hands trembling. He was led to a spare room where Dorothy already sat, waiting, hands folded on the table.
Mrs. Hayes, I came to apologize.
What did you learn?
That you don't know who someone is by looking. I was arrogant and blind. I am ashamed.
She didn't reply. She just looked at him until he looked away.
We'll see what that means tomorrow. That's when it counts.
That evening, Principal Harper called a staff meeting. Friday, we honor Dorothy Hayes. She's more than a crossing guard. That night, Tyler stood in front of a motel mirror, reciting his apology until the words came out steady. In the classroom, Lily tugged her mother's sleeve. I am going to draw Mrs. Hayes a picture with a big stop sign. She's our guardian. Backstage, Tyler's palms were wet. He'd rehearsed 100 times, but his throat was dry.
The truth doesn't need drama. It just needs to be said.
What if they boo? What if they hate me?
Then you stand there and take it. That's how you earn it back.
The gymnasium was packed. Students, teachers, and cameras from 3 networks filled every seat. Megan Reed sat in the back row, clutching her purse.
Ladies and gentlemen, a woman who has stood guard all her life, Mrs. Dorothy Hayes.
She crossed the stage with the same measured stride she once used in the White House.
Thank you. But I am not the only one here with something to share. I'd like to introduce someone who has a story of his own.
A man in a wrinkled suit walked out of the wings, clutching a single sheet of paper. The murmur died. Dorothy stepped aside, leaving him alone at the microphone. Every eye was on him. The silence was absolute. Tyler gripped the podium, the paper in his hand rattling under the stage lights. He'd never felt so small. He thought of his wife's face when she told him to start by apologizing. He cleared his throat.
I was blind and arrogant. I thought she was just an old lady in a vest. I didn't know who she was, but that doesn't matter. I put my hands on her, and I was wrong. She's a guardian, always has been. I am sorry.
The words hung in the gymnasium like a held breath. In the front row, Lily lowered her drawing.
Mrs. Hayes, would you care to say a few words?
Dorothy stood, her heels clicking on the wood floor. The whole room watched her ascend the stage steps. She stood before the microphone. For a long moment, she didn't speak. She looked at Tyler, then at the children. The audience waited. The only sound was the hum of the cameras. Then she reached for the mic.
Mr. Reed, I accept your apology. Strength doesn't announce itself. It stands quietly and waits. That's what I did that morning, and that's what you learned today.
For 2 seconds, silence. Then the gymnasium erupted. Children jumped from their seats. Teachers clapped with their whole hands. Principal Harper walked on stage carrying a small glass plaque. The Guardian Award had her name etched below a stop sign.
For distinguished service, past and present, we honor Dorothy Hayes, our guardian.
Then Lily ran up with a crayon drawing, a yellow vest, a red sign, and wobbly letters reading, "Our hero."
You are the bravest person I know, Mrs. Hayes. I drew you with your magic sign.
Thank you, sweetheart. This means more than any plaque.
Tyler stood at the edge of the stage, his jaw tight, fists clenched not in anger but resolve. His eyes were wet. Dorothy extended her hand to him. He took it, his shoulders shaking, as the cameras flashed the image that would lead every newscast that night. The gymnasium pulsed with applause. In the back row, Megan Reed finally let go of her purse and clapped. The next morning, Tyler Reed showed up at the crosswalk in a loaned vest. Dorothy handed him a spare stop sign without a word.
Raise the sign at the first white shoes. Children run when they see a friend.
I never realized how much you see from this spot, how many lives pass through your hands.
That afternoon, a letter arrived bearing the presidential seal. The former president's daughter invited Dorothy to a ceremony in Washington. Dorothy wrote a short reply. "Thank you, but I retired to stand on a corner. The children need me here."
Starting Monday, every classroom will nominate a quiet strength hero. Dorothy Hayes, you've started a movement.
She said she'd try. That was more than I deserved.
The Parents Association presented her with a new stop sign bearing a single word on the back, Guardian. The newspapers printed the handshake photo on every front page. The story was no longer about the push. It was about what stood still.
I am just the crossing guard. But if that makes me a guardian, I'll take it.
Months later, the school auditorium filled again for the first annual Guardian Award ceremony. A new plaque read, "Dorothy Hayes, Guardian."
I was scared when I first met Mrs. Hayes. She taught me strong people don't have to be loud. She showed me that protecting others isn't about a badge. It's about showing up.
When she finished, Lily gestured to the wings, and a familiar figure walked slowly to the podium.
Guardians come in all shapes. I just held a sign. You hold the future.
The audience rose to their feet, but she was already stepping back. From the front row, Lily beamed, knowing she was part of something bigger. She walked out of the auditorium, back to the street where the children were waiting. By the time the first bus arrived, Dorothy Hayes was back at the crosswalk. Stop sign raised, her vest bright in the sun. It was never about the recognition. It was always about the children crossing safely. In the weeks after the assembly, Tyler Reed stood before a small support group, his hands shaking less than before.
A moment of anger cost me everything, but it also showed me what real strength looks like.
He read them Dorothy's speech each week, the one about standing quietly.
She said strength stands quietly. I am trying to learn that.
A newspaper editorial he wrote spread online. I wasn't stopped by a crossing guard. I was stopped by a guardian. One Saturday, he brought Megan and the kids to the crosswalk. His daughter carried a homemade card.
Mrs. Hayes, I wanted my daughter to meet the person who taught me quiet doesn't mean weak.
Keep walking straight, Mr. Reed.
The girl handed over a card covered in glitter and a yellow stop sign. Dorothy knelt, took the card, and whispered something that made the girl laugh. The gesture was quiet and whole. That evening, alone in her apartment, Dorothy lifted the Guardian Award from her bag. The glass caught the lamplight. She set it down, precisely next to the old framed photograph, the one she used to turn face down. For a long moment, she looked at the young woman in the dark suit, earpiece in place, guarding the lectern of a president.
She would have understood this. The quiet keeps the focus.
Then she picked up a new frame, a photo from the assembly, children clustered around her, Lily's drawing in her hands. She placed it between the two older photographs. A bridge of time. Her fingers rested on the edge of the shelf. Not a prayer, but something close. Then she flicked the switch, and the only light came from the street beyond the window. 3 photographs glowed in the amber pool. A young agent, a crossing guard, and a guardian. She had guarded the house, and now the street. Both had asked the same thing of her: stand still and watch. 1 year after the assembly, a new kindergartner stood at the crosswalk, his backpack too big, his shoulders shaking. He watched the older children rush past, his voice barely a whisper. "I am scared of the big kids." Dorothy knelt slowly, her knees popping, until her eyes were level with his.
Let me tell you about a girl I once knew. She was terrified of crowds, but she learned something important. She learned that if you plant your feet and stay quiet inside, the world gets still around you.
She pointed across the street to a girl in a blue sweater, waving from the school gate. The boy squinted. "That's Lily. She's the cool one with the speech," he said.
She was once just like you, sweetheart. Ready to cross?
He took her hand, and they crossed together, his steps growing steadier with each white stripe. On the other side, he turned around and gave her a grin before running to join Lily. The anniversary arrived on a Tuesday. Tyler aimed his phone camera at his own face and pressed record.
1 year ago, I was the worst version of myself. I want to thank the woman who stood still when I pushed.
The video climbed fast. Thousands of comments, red hearts, and a familiar clip resurfaced. Dorothy at the podium, her voice cutting through silence.
She never asked for a single share. She just stands there every morning, and the world is better for it.
At the crosswalk, Lily sprinted over with a phone in her hand, pigtails bouncing.
Mrs. Hayes, Mr. Reed posted about you. Everyone is sharing it again.
Is that so? Well, I hope he's doing well.
She didn't ask to watch. She just patted Lily's hand and raised her sign as the next group of children approached. The internet hummed with her story again, but here, the only sound was the morning bus and the shuffle of small sneakers. Later, Tyler's sedan slowed at the crosswalk. The window rolled down, and they exchanged a silent nod. At dusk, Dorothy Hayes settled onto her front stoop with a cup of tea, the stop sign leaning against the porch rail. A boy from down the block coasted past on his bicycle, waving. "Evening, Mrs. Hayes," he called.
Evening, sweetheart. You be careful now.
She watched the street quiet around her. The ghosts of her old detail didn't press in tonight. They were just memories now, distant as the hum of traffic miles away. She stood slowly, the familiar ache in her joints, and lifted the sign.
The little boy at the crosswalk this morning. He'll cross fine tomorrow.
The sign went just inside the door, ready for the next 6:30 bus. She paused by the shelf, where 3 photographs glowed in the last light from the window. Then she flicked off the lamp. The room settled into a quiet darkness, and she was at peace. At 6:30, the yellow bus wheezed to the curb, and Dorothy raised her sign into the morning sun. A familiar sedan slowed at the white line. Tyler lowered his window, and they traded the same silent nod. No words. They hadn't needed any for months.
Looking sharp, Mrs. H.
Dorothy's eyes crinkled. She'd watched that one grow from pigtails to a steady walk. The sun climbed higher, and the red letters on her sign caught the light. "Stop." On the school's front wall, a bronze plaque caught the same beam. Guardian Award, Dorothy Hayes. Another group of children lined up, backpacks bouncing, and she signaled them across. Some waved. A few didn't look up from their phones. She protected them either way, She didn't guard the house anymore. She guarded the crossing. The only thing that changed was the street beneath her feet. The morning sun struck the red sign, and for a moment it looked like a shield. Her feet had not moved an inch since that April collision. They were rooted in the same white stripes. A small hand reached up and found her glove. She knelt, and the child saw safety. A kindergartner once asked if she was a spy. She only smiled. "No, sweetheart, just someone who pays attention." On the school wall, a bronze plaque caught the light, but she never turned to read it. In her apartment, 3 photographs sat side by side. The agent, the crossing guard, the guardian. The Glass Guardian Award rested between them, bridging decades with the weight of a stop sign. She never asked for a headline. Her steady eyes were the only story she needed to tell. In a world that pushes, it's the ones who stand their ground that change everything. And the children crossed safely. As the last bus pulled away, a small boy broke from the line and ran back toward the crosswalk. He threw his arms around Dorothy's knees and held on as if she were a lighthouse in a storm. She set the sign against her hip and bent low, her gray bun coming loose. One gloved hand rested on his head. She didn't ask why, she just stayed there. After a breath, he let go and sprinted toward the school, his backpack slapping. Dorothy remained kneeling, watching him shrink into the bright rectangle of the door. A single tear traced her cheek and caught the morning light before it fell. She didn't wipe it away. She just let the sun dry it as she rose to her feet. She lifted the sign and the red letters caught the sun. The children would come again tomorrow. The image held her face, the sign, the morning, then quietly faded to black. Some stories don't end with a headline. They end with a quiet morning, a yellow sign, and the steady footsteps of children. The children she guarded grew up and guarded other children. The gesture never stopped. Lily wrote her college essay about the woman at the crosswalk. She called it Standing Still. Tyler Reed never drove past without slowing. The nod between them was its own language. The Guardian Award hung in the hallway, a small polished plaque that caught the light each morning. In her apartment, 3 photographs rested side by side, bridging decades with the weight of a stop sign. She never sought a single share. The world just turned to watch. In a world that pushes, it's the ones who stand their ground that change everything. The children crossed safely, and somewhere a stop sign held the sun.